Hey guys, I've got Rachel Vaughan here today, and the reason I've got her in is I've done a few videos on Bendigo. I did about an hour-long one last month, and a lot of the stuff, or pretty pretty much all of it, was me collaborating with Rachel. And even though Rachel hasn't been to Bendigo, I don't think um, she's got the background of knowing the occult quite well, and as well as, like, the study that you've done on the Adelaide tunnel system, that a lot of it has helped sort of correlate. It is recording, yeah, helps correlate with here. So those that don't know Rachel, she's an Australian who's you've been putting out a lot of work lately, haven't you?
Yeah, been busy.
And yeah, so she's a child abuse advocate and survivor. I'll put all her links below. People want to go watch her stuff. And I'm actually, so now that I've got my website now, I might even put a page on there with all your stuff, because you've got so many PDFs and I can easily share the PDFs on there too. So I will do that when I get around to it. So go check out Rachel's work, because I think her story is pretty, it's pretty prominent with everything that's going on, and it's an important little piece of the puzzle of what we're all trying to come to the truth. And the reason what I love about you is you've got, because I've just been reading this book now too, and it's all about determination. Like, I'll say it's David Icke's latest book, and it's like, I love his book, and it's just, he's got this steadfast determination, but yours is like, you've got that intuitive, and then you've got this crazy left brain where you detail it, all that sort of stuff. And I don't know if that's part of your programming, but there's something beautiful within the programming too, that it's probably helped you with your research as well. So
is that form of dissociation where you can just focus on something really, really long periods of time and not lose any concentration.
But it's to your benefit now too, isn't it? Kind of. Yeah.
And that's what I've tried to do. Most of my adult life is just turn all those negatives into a positive, because I know it annoys the hell out of them.
Yeah, and that's what it's all. It's because you're actually transmuting it. You've taken something that was used against you and using it to your benefit. So it's beautiful. All right, let's do the amateur Dale share screen. We'll see if it see if it works. I've put all your stuff into a file here. So look, I think we'll probably start with Fortuna, right? Because I did a bit of stuff on Fortuna, but I kind of skimmed over it. And then I want to get onto the missing persons case, because that's been in the Bendigo Advertiser every, like 5 years. It comes back up, and it's and I didn't realize the correlations to your story, because and I'm like, oh wow. Maybe it's time to share that and people might come forward then but it's crazy correlation to your story. But anyway, we'll start on can you see that on the share?
I can see it.
Okay. Yep. So I'll let you do the talking, but so obviously you've shared a lot of stuff on Fortuna. People that don't know Fortuna, it was an old, when did it start? It was an old building in the 1850s, and then was acquired by George Lancel, and then he basically turned it into this elaborate, huge mansion that it is today. It was taken over by the Australian military around the World War period, and I think they occupied it till about the 1980s, and then it went into private hands after. And at the moment, you can go to Fortuna. They do like their high tea kind of thing. So maybe one day we can come over, Rachel. We'll do a bit of a
I don't think I'd show my face in there, Dale, after we go through this document.
Probably not. Okay, I'll go back here. Okay, you can see that?
Yeah, I can. I can only see sort of small. I hope you can see.
Okay, I'll edit it in, because it probably won't be the best viewing, so I'll edit it in later. So, so this is a Herald Sun article. When was it? 2022. Was that for property sale? Bendigo.
22nd of March 2022. Yeah, lots of twos in there. And 22 Chum Street, Golden Square, I think, is the address. Yeah. So lots of twos in there. Very interesting.
So Chum Street was one of the mines that he had. He acquired a lot of the
Yeah, right.
Mine's from a German guy, I believe it was. But yeah, go on. What's this
headline? Well, it's just the most fascinating article, this particular one. There was a real estate article as well that was, it sort of reads as like a, something you would get on a real estate website. And so it's a Herald Sun article, and it's an advertisement basically, and the place was going for $7 million back in 2022. I don't know if they sold it. I should have checked that before I did the dig, but I just want to say that this is for entertainment purposes only, what I'm discussing here, but most of what I'm talking about we're talking about is based on this particular article, which talks about some really dodgy stuff. So if you look at the Fortuna Villa, you will find there's so much Freemasonic symbology within it. That's really, really mind-blowing, basically. And if you look at just from the, the facade, it looks much like the Cinderella Castle or the Disney Castle, which might be a bit of a stretch. And that was modelled on the Neuschwanstein Castle in Bavaria, which has a really nasty occult human sacrifice history. Now, it might seem a bit of a stretch that, it doesn't really look that much like that castle, except that there's Mickey Mouse Park right next door.
Yeah, so we used to go there, which it's a Bendigo Lookout, and it's just up the road from Fortuna, and I think we call it Mickey Mouse Hill or whatever. And I never even thought of that until I'm like, why is it called Mickey Mouse Hill? But yeah, that is it is quite strange, the comparison of the castle to Germany, and then they've got Mickey Mouse Hill there.
Yeah, and you pointed out it was in the gallery that they've got that Mickey Mouse statue. That's really kind of creepy bear thing with a swirl on the stomach, and it looks really dodgy. So yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the building itself from the outside. There's all these weird little portal windows. It looks like a boat. So those little round portal windows, you don't see them on many buildings. That they're quite unusual. And it just struck me that because it was a secret military, it was a defence building for 66 years.
Yeah,
and they had pretty full-on Secrecy Act stuff around what went on there. This article talks about the 11 ghosts that walk the halls, which is really interesting because one of them is actually a little boy in a sailor suit.
Yeah,
and you see that, you see the portal windows. Fortuna, the goddess that I'm assuming this was named after, she has as one of her little staffs or little things that she carries around with her. And bear in mind, this is a goddess that was a precipitator for an ancient cult that had a lot of secrecy around her midsummer rituals in June.
Yeah, so you said that you put in an article here from Wikipedia about Fortuna. What would you say the days were? The 24th of June and the 11th
24th of June and the 11th of June, yeah. So June being a particularly significant satanic cult month because of the number 6. 2 and 4 makes 6. So you've got those, double 6 numbers. The fact that it was being used for 66 years for the military, for the defence, just, I don't know. I'm really into numbers. But getting back to the goddess Fortuna, she had a ship's rudder as one of her symbols. Also, the horn of plenty was one of her symbols. And if you know anything about pedophiles, anything that has any kind of sexual connotation is just like they're obsessed with. I don't know if you saw the Lisa Marie Presley stained glass window that I sent you from her house. I sent it via email. I'll send it again because it's hilarious.
Okay.
It's the
I don't think I've seen it.
It's just like.
Can you explain that one? Was it Lisa Marie Presley's got?
So her house in Bendigo that went up for sale on the day that her daughter died, or it was announced that her daughter died. Priscilla Presley.
Priscilla, yes.
I always mix the two of them up.
Yeah, so it wasn't Priscilla's house. This is the place that she stayed when she was in Bendigo last year. Are you saying it's actually her house? No,
it was actually the house that was up for sale.
Right.
Okay. So one of those stained glass windows in the house that she had up for sale on the day her daughter died last year. It's a phallic. It's a stained glass window of a penis and balls. I mean, it can't be anything else. It's so obvious. It just people who are in those sort of cults, and I'm not saying she's part of a cult. She bought this house from somebody, but whoever created that stained glass window, they are completely obsessed with sex. That's all they think about. It is just 100% what they do and think about, to the point where they put it in a friggin' window and you look at it all day long. personally, I found it quite hilarious. But getting back to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, while you're on the theme of, because you said that Fortuna has a, what did you say, a ship's rudder, right?
Yeah. So Fortuna has that ship's rudder. Yeah.
Can you explain that? Because you've just said the obsession with sex, and if you listen to Jordan Maxwell's work, he talks about how all commerce and water is actually means sex. It's that's the natural flow of energy. So and this is why they always talk into maritime and commerce and all that is a symbol of sex. So then you've come up with that, and then I think you've said around the Glandor Boys Home and stuff like that they have ship symbolism within that.
Yeah, when I asked at the front desk about cellars and tunnels and things in the area, she said, "Did you mean the ship?"
Yeah.
And so then I found that big, large, cigar-shaped, what looks like a ship's hull, must be under the ground there. And there's a lot of rumours around that. It wasn't just that she said that when I went up to the front office. It's just bizarre. But so basically, in maritime law, bestiality. So sex with children is considered bestiality, which is legal. And so even if a ship is in dry dock, even if it's on land, it's not in the ocean, it still is under maritime law. So what I was speculating, and this is pure speculation, there may be certain symbolism, something, like the port windows all through Fortuna could be a way of designating that building to be under maritime law, or it might just be a symbol to other people who look at it, who are in the know, that is what that particular building operates under. And again, this is pure speculation and for entertainment purposes only.
All right. Okay, so we're going down here. So you said the Horn of Plenty, the goddess Fortuna, is also known as taking lives. What does that say? Princess Augustus' two grandsons. I say that's just a story of Fortuna. So what about this? We got this picture here. She's out one of the. So these are the windows that you're talking about, and then the statues of children on the building.
Yeah. So those windows are very unusual. I mean, that's a really difficult thing to do in architecture, a perfect circle, especially in stone. So, personally, I don't think it really lends much to the building. It looks kind of awkward and out of place. So you've got to wonder why they're doing that. Why is it so important?
Well, you don't see this style of building anywhere around Bendigo either. It's really just this building. It doesn't. I guess that's part of its mystique, that why people want to go there, because it's it's so different. But yeah,
really. And further on in that document, you'll see that there's a statue of a little girl. And from it's from a historical type perspective. When women dressed back in the day, they had particular underclothes, and it looks like she's in her underclothes. It doesn't look like a dress. You can see it's very low on the shoulders, and she's actually covering up her genitals. So and in a very
yes, I've seen
yeah. So when you see these sorts of alabaster statues all over the place, you think, oh, it's just a statue, but that's very symbolic of innocence taken, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or Lolita style sort of, temptation perhaps. But it's interesting because directly behind that is another stained glass window which has the rising sun motif, and that appears over and over again in the Fortuna Villa as well. Now, the rising sun in an ancient Egyptian belief, and I'm going back to that particular belief system, not talking about the rising sun that they use on the Japanese flag, because I don't think that's really significant to this particular villa. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the rising sun is a symbol of rebirth, life, reincarnation, death, rebirth, that sort of thing. The reason I bring that up as well is because the Freemasons, and obviously Lancel was a Freemason, they're really obsessed with ancient Egyptology. My father was completely obsessed with it. So it's always interesting if you look at anything into Freemasonry to go back to that. Where did a lot of their belief systems sort of herald from? The rising sun appears in multiple places in floorboards, in stained glass windows. There's also the Rosy Cross. So the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, the Golden Dawn.
I'll just get that one up here. I just went past that before. Okay, so yeah. So you got this one here.
I can't actually see what you're looking at.
Can't you see it?
No, but that's okay. That's okay because I know the article very well, and I know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll just keep scrolling and I'll crop them in anyway. So yeah, I've got the picture up of the of the Rosy Cross.
Yeah,
the stained glass windows. Yeah.
So that Rosy Cross window is, or the Rosicrucian symbol of the rose is just above where a rising sun is very intricately placed into the floorboards. So it's all interconnected.
And so with that one of the rising sun too, you spoke about the vines on the side. That you thought that was significant. Why is that?
For some reason, it looked to me like a map. It just seemed incongruent. It didn't fit, so it looked messy. If I was going to make something out of stained glass, I'd make it symmetrical to make it beautiful. But one side of that particular vine sort of gets in the way of the rising sun. So to me, it means something. I mean, we look at things like what's his face, Hunter Biden's back. That he's got those particular lakes, tattooed on his back for a reason. But that was what came up to me as soon as I saw that window. I thought, okay, wow.
So do you think that could be a map or something like that? Who knows?
It could relate to where the tunnels go, move, shapes. I mean, there's further on in that document. There's an article that I've quoted that talks about all of the different tunnels in Bendigo. There are so many tunnels in that area, but you can get very little information on them. Very, very frustrating. So I know I did a dig around and couldn't find a lot. You had a lot more information than I did. But it's really interesting, quite a bit of what you've already uncovered and shown on your Telegram channel is the destruction of a lot of those tunnels just recently. And
I might get to a couple of those buildings in a minute. I'm just at the bit here where you've put up the article about the haunted aspect of Fortuna Villa. It says the Bendigo Mansion with Roman baths, an ornament lake, a reproduction Pompeii fountain, not only to mention 11 ghosts that you've highlighted, top secret military pass that we know about, and obviously the part of the sale, and they've mentioned that it's kind of real tongue in cheek, isn't it? That they've got these coffin-sized drawers, and that the ghost of George Lancel is there, and all this. So, why would you put this in? And this is in the article to sell the property, isn't it? So
yes. It's a Herald Sun article, but it's really an advertisement.
Yeah.
Why would you put that in there unless they're trying to titillate those people that really enjoy the themes around life and death and rebirth? And I mean, the goddess Fortuna was about very similar sort of symbology, rebirth, those sorts of things. So, and good luck and fate, which is really interesting because I know that was something that my father, as a mass murderer, was obsessed with. Fate. He was the one arbitrating fate, so of particular victims. So he was like a god in his own mind.
Oh, right.
So just thought it was really interesting that there's that fate or fatal factor. But why would you? So
is that belief that fate, is it because I am the god and I'll dictate your fate?
Yes, or interfering with God's plan. That's another thing.
It's a deluded ego. The Satanist. It's absolutely deluded. I've got the next one. I just want you to talk about this. You said the reference to Alice in Wonderland. I put this in my last video, but if you want to explain it, it says "Eat Me" sign on the tea cake, as well as you got the butterfly reference there, obviously monarch.
So this. I highlighted this in particular because of the connection to it. It looks a lot like to me the Disney castle. You've got Mickey Mouse Park next door. Then you've got this Alice in Wonderland symbology in their tea ceremony. So as we know, Walt Disney was a CIA asset, and the Alice in Wonderland, whatever you want to call it, myth or whatever, was basically a programming tool for the MK Ultra program. The butterfly is a very strong symbol of the monarch programming. So that could be a symbol, or the high tea. She's using, the Eat Me cake from Alice in Wonderland could be a way of just drawing in those that find that sort of thing funny. They might have the secrecy. They might know about what was happening, Secret Service stuff that was going on there. It would titillate the people that know all about it.
Yeah.
It could also be a symbol or an indication that it's still going on to a certain degree. There's one very, very disturbing aspect to that article where they talk about if you hear screams at night, don't worry about it. It's just some ghost, you know, carrying on about something. It's like, seriously? Okay, fine. You know, if I hear screams in the neighbourhood, I'll just assume it's a ghost. I mean, the fact is, vocal manifestations are extremely rare. Your audible manifestations are extremely rare also, but a vocal manifestation is just unheard of, really. You don't get those sorts of things very often unless it's somewhere really, really dodgy, really dangerous, like a hospital that's, you know, experimented on people for long periods of time. To vocalise and to be able to hear it, it's very unusual. So I'd be very concerned about who was screaming, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, any one of these things is like, they're just little dot points, coincidences, but the amount of symbolism there is around Fortuna is just extreme. That, you know, there's got to be something. Yeah, obviously. We'll get to that in a minute. So you put up the Masonic key. Do you want to explain that one as well, too? Because it's within the Fortuna Villa logo. And you've got these images from the like straight from online.
That was from the actual website for the villa. Yeah. So on their glasses, some of their symbology, it's just got the Masonic wood key. It's pretty obviously a wood key.
Yeah.
So you know that's a very strong symbol to let other Masons know that that's their spot. Yeah. That's for them.
So then you send this up, and I find it interesting. There's a repetition of a circular formation in the area that may be a depiction of Fortuna goddess and wheel. Do you want to explain that one too? Because I've never seen this.
Well, this really weirded me out when I was doing the search around. I think it was 21 when we first started looking into this, and I found one near the Forest Creek mine, and it's just this fairly large circular formation which would take a lot of maintenance. I mean, it kind of looks like a maze. Again, it could be a kind of map. But it's really weird that there is also exactly the same symbol or formation in the grounds at the Fortuna Villa. So I'm thinking, what does that mean? Does that mean perhaps there's a tunnel that goes from one location to the other, perhaps? Or is it, I don't know, a landing pad for a helicopter or something?
It's a strange marking, though. Like, to me, it almost looks like a crop circle of, like, sacred geometry or something. Yes. Yeah, it's not by accident. It does. I've just got it up here. It does look like a maze, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's really weird. So, and obviously, you know, the Freemasons had all their you know, symbology, their mathematical symbols and the like. It's also interesting. I think it's Bendigo itself has this triangular formation of the way the actual whole town is set out. If you look on Google Earth, it's one big triangle.
I'll put that up as well. Yeah.
Then you've got the golden square and golden this and golden that all around it.
Yeah.
And so this golden references also, I think, relate to the golden square and golden triangle, the Freemasonic symbology. There's just so much of it. Then there's that weird bird formation in the landscape, which sort of points towards Eaglehawk, which is also really bizarre.
I can't believe you'd even format that. I was like, when you did that, I went, wow, because like I said, you've got an amazing eye for that detail. But even like Bendigo they call the area the Deborah Triangle.
Oh wow!
So the whole region is called the Deborah Triangle. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Did you say it was the Devil's Triangle too? That it has that nickname as well?
No, I haven't said that. No. But yeah, I mean, we'll put up in a minute. But like the gold references are everywhere, and you've put in a couple of photos. I think I'd seen them before from the Bendigo Hospital tunnels, and so the pub just on the corner from the Bendigo Hospital is called the Rising Sun, actually.
Wow. Okay. Brilliant.
Wow. And like these tunnels that we do know about, they all seem to connect around this area between View Street, the hospital, and the Bendigo CBD. Like with my last video that I put up around the Bendigo post office. I'll get to a couple of videos in a moment. I just want to show them. You put up this article that I think I shared in the last video too, just about a local radio station were talking about the secret tunnels in Bendigo around Fortuna, and I'll put all these PDFs in there too, or a link to my webpage that people can go through and read through these in their own time. But yeah, so I actually know that radio host that was talking then too. It's, but it just shows that you know there was extensive tunnels through the Fortuna area. I've just okay. Oh yeah, I found up the one around you've got in the coffin. It said it's got everything from hidden drawers, coffin cupboards, cupboard size to fit a coffin, and a hidden drawer that took me 4 years to find. An old security guard told me about it. And then they said that there was actually a ghost log book from the military days.
Yes, yes. So there was so much disturbance in this building that even the military, the defence people, were forced to take records of it. Now, is this like Area 51? Is this like, was it Skinwalker Ranch? Were they so interested in what was going on there that they're actually studying the phenomena? Were they trying to produce that phenomena? Because that is really unusual for any kind of military to be interested in anything that's occult. So again, you know, you've got your Freemasonry, you've got your occult obsession, and even the Defence Force was having to look into it. Now, it's very interesting that that's just happened to go missing, because that log would have been incredibly informative. And I do wonder if perhaps some of these apparitions or some of the logging of what was going on there might have alluded to perhaps whatever. I mean, 11 ghosts on a property, that to me infers 11 people died there. You don't just have ghosts just coming in from nowhere into a property. It doesn't happen. Every ghost story you ever hear is somebody died there, somebody suicided, someone was murdered there, you know. It's almost like an admission. So it just... Have you ever heard of any backstory to anybody actually dying on the property? They say George Lancel is there. Did he die there?
I mean, I haven't. No, I have. I'm not sure if he died there. Yeah, I mean, he was. People that don't understand, like this was an extremely powerful man, and not just in Bendigo, but like on a world scale. He had connections in with the royal family. He, you know, he was the biggest media owner in Victoria at the time. Okay. You know, he wasn't just there's statues everywhere all around Bendigo. And you actually shared a video of the old chapel in the cemetery, and that they showed George Lancel's grave there, that link that you sent to the chapel.
So just to the northern side of the Bendigo Chapel here, we have perhaps our most famous person in the Bendigo Cemetery here is George Lancel, the Quartz King of Bendigo, buried here in 1906. There's been a number of burials occurred here, with the last one occurring in 2007 being George's grandson, George Lancel.
Can you explain the palm tree reference to? Because I get this constantly all the time, and I basically heard it off you and just repeated it. But I'd never noticed the significance, and then once I found every key building in Bendigo, it's there. Every one of them's marked with a palm tree, and obviously Fortuna Villa, the whole area is marked along the side with palm trees.
Yeah, yeah. So multiple researchers had come to me and said that, did you know that the palm tree is actually used as a symbol of where the tunnels are? And it just freaked me out, because I had a palm tree, like a yucca, you know, those really tall ones in my front yard, and obviously there was a tunnel underneath. And there were other really significant buildings where there was bunkers and things around where I lived in Edwardstown, which had the palm trees. Another researcher pointed out that they've got most palms have got at most an 18-inch ball of roots, so they don't interfere with anything underground. They're not going to go off and travel in and destroy, you know, your brickwork or whatever is underground. But that's a really powerful symbol, and yeah, if you look around, you start to see it. If you're not noticing, if you're not paying attention, you wouldn't even know. It's just a plant.
And I mean, and the palm is like eternal life kind of thing, and youth is so it's kind of going back to children again. But like once I noticed, I went around Bendigo, and the key old marked buildings like St. Aidan's Orphanage, all laced with palm trees, you know, St. Killian's Church, the post office, all the key tunnel entrances around the Roslyn Park Gardens, like everywhere, Fortuna Villa. And like palm trees are quite expensive. and to bring in all these all these palms in that period, I find interesting. Now that I brought up St. Aidan's, are we able to share the one that you had on St. Aidan's Orphanage?
Yeah, an amazing researcher provided that too. Yeah. So, that's quite disturbing what was going on there.
I'll get it up, and people can read it in full. I'll just hang on. Where is it? Yes, and this is quite interesting because I spoke to someone a week ago whose grandfather passed, who was in St. Aidan's Orphanage, and I said, do you have any information? They said he would not speak about it. I think a lot of people went through. So I think it ran right up till the 1980s. And those people in Bendigo would remember there's a lot of people think this was an insurance thing, but there was a side building on St. Aidan's Orphanage as well, which was quite big, and that burnt. There was a huge fire, and the whole thing burnt down. And just after that, that's when they redid the whole orphanage and turned into it's now residential. But yeah, so we used to go in there as kids. It was just it was an abandoned building. Kids used to just go in there and smoke weed and all the other things you do. But it was a very it was an eerie place, and it was basically abandoned for about 20 years. So so where's this? This is obviously it says state inquiry to the government compensation payments. Talk about redress scheme for kids that were abused, and it was around the time of the sorry speech, I believe.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah, so like I said, a researcher provided that to me. So I haven't read through it recently, but I just know that there was quite a bit of pretty horrific abuse that was ignored. So I know that the people that are mentioned in that particular document were going forward and saying these things are happening, and they're just basically being beaten for daring to speak about it. So, pretty horrific stuff. And it's interesting what you're saying about the orphanage. So the Glandore Boys Home was left abandoned for about 20 years. After it was no longer being used, and then it became the community centre that it is now. So, it's interesting how they leave them abandoned for long periods of time. And, to me, I often wondered what was going on still underneath, which is why I went there in the first place, to find out, because my father always said that the tunnels went from where I grew up, our property, all the way to the tram line, and that's directly, it would have gone straight through underneath there. So, yeah, I still wonder if that ship's hull, the Fitzjames, is in the grounds there, and if there were tunnels leading to it. Certainly lots of anecdotal evidence that there was.
So what's that building being used for now?
It's for the NDIS, which is concerning. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like with these Bendigo buildings, they've all been a huge amount of them have been done up, like even in the last 5-10 years, including like the town hall, the law courts, the big dinghy underground of the old TAFE building. Now the council building's been completely demolished, which there were tunnels under there. It's been a whole new facility's been built on the top of that, and then like you've kind of referenced the same thing as well. That's why.
Oh yeah. Lots of people getting really frustrated in the Glandore and Edwardstown area, where I've pointed out there's a lot of these tunnels. A lot of the heritage homes are being razed to the ground, whereas for an upgrade of the road.
Right.
But then the everyday houses that don't have heritage listing are being left alone, and that is because a lot of these houses have access to these bunkers that were built pre-World War II, around between 1913 and say 1930. There was a lot of old kilns in the area built, and then then they built tunnels to them in the 1938 mandate, and so those houses have access to them. And part of me would like to think that the government's getting rid of it so that people can't use them for the nefarious activities that I was used in the 80s and the 70s. But part of me also thinks they're just getting rid of the evidence. I mean, they've also got an upgrade going, rebuild for the Morphettville Racecourse, where one of the really large tunnel openings are, and it just pisses me off because I point these things out, and then suddenly they go in there, and I would be absolutely gobsmacked if they don't cover up that tunnel entrance. It's likely that's what they're doing.
It feels like it in Bendigo, but there's been a frantic attempt to upgrade and redo all these old buildings. The tunnel entrance, around the Catholic College building that goes across to Dr. Harry Little, Kinder. So were you? I didn't really go much into that, but you actually did. You did a PDF on that as well. Are we able to touch? Were we able to touch on that one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I had a bit of a look around.
I'm not. I just want to say before, like, I'm not suggesting anything or whatever's going on there, right? Because I know a lot of people that have gone to that Kinder, but it's look, we're just looking at the symbology, when and if these were used for whatever at whatever time, we don't know. But it's I feel intuitively that it's important to put these things out there anyway. So and the fact that I know I've had personal friends that have been through that tunnel, and I know it goes directly across the View Street Road into Dr. Harry Little Kinder. So I've just got it up here. Can you see that, or you can remember?
I can see it from just a small an icon, which is fine. And I haven't looked into that document for a while, but I do remember one of the first things that came to me that seemed odd was that even when you do a Google search, it gives you the wrong address to start off with, which is pretty unusual for a business that's still operating. So I thought that was odd. Could just be a glitch. Who knows?
You put that in, yeah.
It's interesting that there's tunnels involved simply because of the McMartin preschool case. So they and I'm not saying anything's going on at the Little Kinder, Dr. Harry's Little Kinder at all. I'm just saying that in a lot of these cases where you've got your childcare centre or your kindy and you've got tunnels, they use the tunnels for abuse. It's very convenient because then they can just say that the tunnels don't exist. And I know from all the studies and the research that I've done and people that have helped me look into the tunnels in Edwardstown, you cannot get information on these things. None of it is, I went to every historical society, every council. I got a little bit of information from the council, but it was very hush-hush and you can't tell anybody I told you this. And it was just like, seriously, how can this be such a big secret? These things are, surely these are of danger of, the properties above them would crumble and disintegrate, like the house I grew up in is crumbling and disintegrating. It just seems quite amazing to me that they would keep these things a secret unless there's a reason for it, unless there's a desire to discredit anybody who talks about them. Oh, I can see that really well. That's nice and big.
And again, if you go to right out the front of like where I know directly the tunnel goes, there's a palm tree right out the front of the building.
Yeah.
And then there's a tiny little street. I'm not sure what it's a little forest lane, I think, out the back. And I went around the back of that, and there's another palm tree right out the back of
wow.
Almost following directly from the tunnel. And what I've heard is that tunnel does go from the corner of Catholic College on View Street over to the Bendigo Cathedral in this direction, which would then lead over to across to Fortuna Villa. So it almost seems like that's one of the key tunnels. Whether that was originally used for mining or I don't know.
And anyway, where you're looking at these things on Google Maps or Google Earth, where you see a lot of triangles, it's usually quite indicative. You can see where, on the streetscape, it would be a very awkward place to have a triangle. Doesn't seem to be any reason for it. It makes the streets really oddly shaped. That can be a symbol of, there's something going on in the centre of that. I've seen it in Moana, and I've seen it, obviously in Adelaide. A lot in Adelaide, actually. Also, there was a part of when you showed me the link to the post office that has that really obvious tunnel that you shared some footage of. That was nearby to an I shape in the landscape, in the streetscape of Bendigo, which is also really unusual. And again, if Bendigo is
I'll get that one up. Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
If Bendigo is on a triangular sort of shape, I'm curious to where that eye would actually be placed in that triangular shape. Because the Eye of Providence in the triangle is a really significant symbol. So there you go. I mean, you can just see it, without it being highlighted, it's really obvious. I mean, it's just an odd thing to do. So, it makes it awkward. And you can see with the topography around Canberra in Australia that it's obviously done on purpose as a nod to the occult. There's even been an amazing, a guy did an amazing discussion on all of the particular kinds of trees in the area around Canberra, around Parliament House, and they have particular symbology around the conifers, and I think there were cedars and things like that. So even to the point where the kinds of trees, the palms, all of those sorts of things, they're all symbolic to people who are in the know and know what they're looking for. So, you know, why would you have it like that? I mean, why would you have a shape like that? It just seems really odd.
Yeah, and so, it's, and in similarity to Canberra, it's almost like on a small reference too that the peak of that triangle is the Bendigo Town Hall, which I'll put in the links to, because there's that Hidden Bendigo series is quite good. Some of those videos in which they go through the Beehive building, the Town Hall, a couple others too. But then, and you've obviously mentioned terraces, like can you mention that again? The significance of.
So terraces and avenues tend to have the water tunnels.
Sorry, this triangular shape is Littleton Terrace, which runs through right the centre of Bendigo. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, so avenues and terraces tend to carry the water tunnels. So whether or not they're walkable or just the very small 1 metre diameter ones, they tend to be where you see where your stormwater nodes, so you can go into where the water goes down into the stormwater grates and goes down into the ground or into the tunnels. So another thing I wanted to mention was where you find a lot of cul-de-sacs, and pay attention to cul-de-sacs, particularly, you know, obviously I've studied Adelaide, you know, intensely, and there's areas, particularly around the Warradale Barracks, which is an army barracks there. There's all these cul-de-sacs near the Morphettville Racecourse as well, which would belie some sort of tunnel underneath or something underneath the ground that would make it impossible for them to actually put roads in there. Because it carries a certain weight. So, you know, pay attention to those areas if you're looking for tunnels. And also, if you look on maps like these, look for dotted lines. If they don't seem to have a reference to them. The dotted lines can be in the maps without actually having an index or a key to let you know what the dotted lines are for. And a lot of these are actually, you know, underground.
Right, yeah. And the video that you put up, the Hidden Bendigo video, I won't share it here, but people can look at it, is they go through the sorry, hang on. This bloody save things just come up. Can you still see that? Hang on.
Yeah, I can still see it.
Apologies. Oh, hang on. Oh, it's just saving the last video. That's what I'm trying to.
Oh, okay.
Still, anyway. All right, all good. Yeah, so into the Bendigo Town Hall, which is at the peak of that triangle, shows that there is an underground area in there too, and that is that's where they have the Bendigo Council meetings. And I just remembered before this, they actually they used to do the state parliament moving around Victoria. So obviously they have it in Melbourne, but they brought it out to regional areas for certain periods of time. And I remember because I used to work in that street, and so we had all the Victorian state parliament, and they held it in the Bendigo Town Hall for a number of days.
So most of those town halls all throughout Australia are Freemasonic town halls. They're built by the Masons. It's probably got symbology outside it, so that's probably where your local Freemasons would meet as well.
Yeah, and then the previous video I showed from the last one where the tunnel goes from the post office, and he said, oh, we don't know where it comes out, but he said it comes out to a lawned area, which would basically be behind the back of that town hall in Littleton Terrace. And then Jordan Maxwell, I'll mention it again, that he does talk about the cult of the Ton, and he said that to look out for town reference names that end in TON. Yeah. So Bendigo's got quite a few of them with, like, you know, Littleton Terrace and Kennington. Yeah. All right, I'll go back to Dr. Harry Little again. You said, I don't like their motto.
No.
from little things, big things grow, right? And yeah, they got I guess like the rainbow or lotus flower kind of reference in there too. But yeah, I don't know if you want to mention anything about that or not. From little things, big things grow.
Yeah, I think it speaks for itself.
He said the kinder's not government owned. The property has been kept within the family. This is common for properties that have been underground.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Oh yeah, so you've highlighted the palms too within this. Yeah. You can see that picture there. So around the back of Forest Land. So if people can see my index here, this is where the school is up here. This is a tunnel entrance. There's a tunnel entrance here, and it runs in this direction.
Wow.
That's one that I know for a fact. You got a picture of you, Rachel, out there.
Yeah, well, that's the palm. That's the yucca. And that's literally. So
you look like Pippi Longstocking or something with you.
Oh God, it's the 80s. It's the 80s style shopping.
That's right. You look cute. How old are you there?
I was about 11.
You're pretty tall, aren't you, for 11-year-old?
Yeah, I got tall pretty quick. But that window behind me is my bedroom window, and it's directly under there that the lined room was in the cellar where the filming took place.
Right.
So that palm tree being directly out the front is significant. Yeah. And this is, there's palm trees again. This is on the corner of the street that I grew up on. And that there are multiple.
Okay, right. Yeah, I can see them
along Castle Street, multiple bunkers in that area. Yeah, it's absolutely peppered with them. I did a letter drop in the area.
Yeah.
I did, and I think it was 2019. And basically, I offered money if people wanted to tell me about their bunker. Nobody got back to me.
Really?
I think I put out 30 odd letters because I knew I was going to the right houses. Yeah, nobody got back to me.
Nothing at all.
It's a sizable amount of money too. I was also offering $6,000 for people to come forward and show me, but they didn't.
Did they know? Did they know who you were? Is there still people in the area that were there from your childhood that have stayed there?
One that I met serendipitously knew one of my brothers, and he was the one who said he had the trap at the back of the property and wanted to show it to me. But I said I'd bring friends. I was nervous about going, and then he wouldn't show it to my friends. But I've actually got on a 1955 title, and he sold that property since. It went up for sale within 3 weeks of me seeing him. It just keeps happening. I catch up with people, and 3 weeks later they sell their house. But there's a 1955 title that shows the tunnel that goes towards Macklin Street from his house. So he was right. It's back there, but he just didn't want to show my friends. He wanted to show me when I was on my own.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. All right. So this that's a picture of the palm tree at the front. There's actually that interesting building right down on the corner too, which is abandoned. Why have you got this? Why have you got this highlighted here? Just here, the manhole that you've got in.
Just because the manholes can be generally a sign of a stormwater tunnel. And when they're large enough to move through, they can often have a ladder. So it's much like the Telstra tunnels, the commissary tunnels that you'll find if you've got two or more those metal plates that say Telstra or Telecom, that there's often a pit underneath that's usually big enough to get into. So it's usually the plates, when there's 4, 6 or 8 plates, you've got a large pit and there's a ladder and it's 5 to 6 feet deep or more, and you're a couple of meters across. And those tunnels are under every main road and main street in Australia. They're everywhere. I mean, there must be so much contraband that gets trucked around, underneath the ground there.
Yeah,
including children.
So, and also for people that don't know, this is the top of U Street, which runs right. This is probably about 500 meters from the art precinct, which is obviously the Capitol Theatre, which is the old Freemasonic Hall, and I've mentioned before about the art gallery. So this is only just up the road from that, and these are probably the oldest, most grandest houses and most affluent area in Bendigo, right? So you said this is the back of the property of Harry Little. This is Forest Lane. I went around the back there. Is there anything you want to mention about that one?
Well, I think at the time we had some sort of anecdotal information that there might have been a tunnel coming in from the back or in that area. So that's what I was looking around at, and it's interesting that this looks like an abandoned piece of property.
Yeah, so you said this place next door, people would know this in Bendigo, it's a dilapidated and might be an access point. So I have seen there's like I don't have no idea who owns this property. You've highlighted the manholes.
Yeah, so you've got a commissary and you've got probably a water tunnel.
Yeah. And so this is it's a very old building. And I used to go to school in this street, and I've never ever seen it in use. In 30 years, yeah. But there's a car that goes. I've seen it go park around the back. So like obviously someone's going in this. It must be someone's property. But
and it's interesting because a lot of these houses, if that does have tunnel access, they don't want to demolish them, because then either the tunnel will get exposed, or anybody who buys the property is going to find out that they're going to have to do extra work to get rid of a tunnel and fill it in before they can actually build on it.
Yeah.
So they just leave them destitute.
And that reminds me of that other one that I've sent you that I showed just a brief clip in the previous video of the abandoned property on Eagle Hawk Road, which was just up from my old property. That you can see it looks like an old kiln or whatever, like a tunnel entrance, and there's like signs all over the building: "Do not enter property. Do not, like, you will be." I can't remember what it said, but it's like,
wow. Yeah,
and that's and I've shared. There's another one about, you know, obviously the tunnels that run from Bendigo out to Eagle Hawk, and that's in that exact line on Eagle Hawk Road,
which is really important. There's so many gold mine tunnels in the area, it's obscene. So there's one that goes all the way out to the Deborah gold mine is it actually from Bendigo? It's like something like 3.5 km, I think.
Yeah.
One particular tunnel.
Yeah,
it's massive.
So yeah, those are anyone that come and does the gold mine tour in Bendigo. I've done it once. They show you the mapping within the tunnel, so they'll have a different color for every layer, and I mean the whole city is just crisscrossed with tunnels. Okay, you've pointed out like, I mean, I could go on about these forever, but like you point out like a number of these different interesting names around Bendigo, and particularly the one that struck me was the Shine Bright, right? And I have I think Raina Michelson mentioned in her testimony when they tried to change the name of her charity, and they suggested Shine. And I think actually one of the passwords to get into one of these dark web platforms was also Shine. So it is a name.
Because they like to call their little child stars. It's shine. It's about shining. Now, it's interesting that the sex ed program in South Australia at the moment is called Shine.
Is it?
It is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you go from Safe Schools, that was run by someone who was a pro pedophile, and they changed it from Safe Schools singly. Now it's called Shine. So, you know.
Yeah. I think one of the most disturbing things ever is that Peter Dutton owns a chain of childcare centres.
Yeah.
Like,
horrifying.
I mean, anyone look into that man's eyes, there's no soul there, is there? It's absolutely horrifying. Where do I want to go from here? It's like we've got about 20 minutes. I've got trying to find the other PDFs. I'm making an absolute mockery of this one, Rach.
It's just so much to go through. How do you go through it all?
Oh no, I'm doing this course on Thursday, and they'll be like, it's freaking amateur hour here with him. It won't be this.
I hope you got a good turnout.
Oh look, it's probably too many. I'm gonna have to cap it.
Awesome, well done, awesome. At the end of that Fortuna Villa document, there's actually another article that's really goes into a lot of the other tunnels in the area. So that might be good to actually have a look at. It's right at the end.
Which is that the Fortuna one? Which
the one that I gave you yesterday that we've already sort of dissected a little bit.
Hang on,
just above.
I'm just gonna get rid of these. This one, no, we already.
So if you go down a little bit. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's the one.
This one.
Go down a fair bit. I'd forgotten about this particular article because it just talks, you know.
Was it this one up here? This article?
No, it's actually at the end of this document. I put in a different article, which, you know, after they talked about Flick, just above this.
Oh, so, right. Yeah.
Hang on, is it in there? Go up a little bit more. I think it's still when I was talking about the tunnels. Keep going.
That's inside the hidden drawers. Oh, this one.
Wow.
No?
Yeah, no, it's actually, I remember there was an extra bit of that article that or document that's not sort of appearing there. Yeah, it's interesting that again, Egyptian symbology seems to be all around Bendigo, Kyneton area. So you'll see Unks in the streetscape, and the Eye of Ra, you know, multiple times is appearing, and the rising sun symbol multiple times.
Oh, it's not this
so
one.
It is very interesting.
Can you see that now?
Yeah, Yeah, I can.
Oh, they are working.
Yeah.
Not in this one.
Yeah, so that really weird, I like to call it the play school window. You know, you used to see those windows in play school, and they showed the sound window or the clear window. One of them was a Freemasonic window. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the same as like the NBC logo, isn't it? MSNBC.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, which is the rising sun again. You've got that symbology.
And Jordan Maxwell talks about that. That was adopted by the communists as well too. They call it the dawn of the new day, which is the same thing. It's all about, you know, the Phoenix Ride, like destruction and recreation, same sort of thing. I'll just I might finish up on that missing persons case. I don't know why it's not coming up. Oh, sorry about this. I stuffed it up when I did, but I'll share it over the top of this. So it was this is like I said, this keeps coming up every 5 years. It's like another story, and so it said that it was suggested that the father murdered their boyfriend and girlfriend. Now they went missing on, trying to think, it was on Mundy Street. They used to have a dance there, and it's like a YMCA hall. Now we used to use it we used to go there for school, just to use the facility and stuff like that. But they went missing back then. But like, what's the similarities between this guy? This must have struck a chord with you based on your history and the family with the Beaumont, the story of the Beaumont children and stuff like that. It just reeks of the same story, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So people going missing, and in the article that is attached to that particular screen grab that I shared with you, the parents are still not getting any luck from police. They're still going to the police and saying, why haven't you solved this case? And the police are obviously giving them the runaround. So again, in a Freemasonic town, the police officers that are high up, that would be the ones that give the orders to go and investigate something. They would have to be in the Brotherhood. I've been told that anybody above sergeant or sergeant and above in Australia has to be part of the Brotherhood. It's the same in the military. At a certain level, you can't be an officer or someone in power unless you're part of that group. And their oath is to each other. So if those two children went missing, or teenagers went missing because someone from the Brotherhood took them, and in an area with so many tunnels, this is really, really distressing. They won't get investigated. So like my father wouldn't get investigated. And it's interesting, I've been looking into, or a friend of mine has been looking into the McIntyre name. And McIntyre means son of the Mason.
Was it?
Yeah, so it's a pretty amazing, maybe that's partly why my father had so much protection, because he had that name. He also had, he was from a bloodline family. But also my great-grandfather, Joseph Wright. Wright is another word for Mason. So I had it on both sides.
Wow.
Yeah, so, well, actually, no, so that was still my father's side. So we had the Wright name. My grandmother married my grandfather, who was the McIntyre, and brought those two families together. Yeah. It's just so much carrying on in my family about how special we were, and I could never really see it as a child. What makes us special? Well, I've got a bit of an idea now from the research that I've done.
Literally, Mason merging with Mason.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because the book I'm reading at the moment too, he's talking about name symbology. There's no coincidences with names as well. I got this other one up. Actually, we might even finish on this one. So you found this old article, Bendigo Man captured it in tunnel search. I don't think I put this in my previous video. So you've got a link here to the Bendigo Advertiser story. What did you find interesting about this one?
I think you actually told me about this one, so that's why.
Maybe I did. I sent it to you years ago. Yeah. It's been so long. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just a beautifully formed tunnel that's just part of the landscape. It's obviously just a normal thing to have a tunnel there, and someone used it to abscond. And when I shared my PDF on Edwardstown, the same sort of thing was going on. There was actually an article about someone from, I think it was 2021, disappearing down a drain to get away from police. So these drains and tunnels are known to nefarious people to escape from certain situations. Yeah, but that was actually quite a beautiful looking tunnel. I mean, you know, red brick.
And look, this is right in the middle of Bendigo. People would know this tunnel. It goes straight through Rolson Park and then goes under the new Bendigo Bank building. But I'd never noticed this one too. There's the Queen Victoria statue, and you said there's a 5-pointed star. Now, I obviously know that because I'm looking at it from ground level, and you wouldn't know this unless
exactly.
Unless you saw it.
And credit where it's due. A friend of mine picked that up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for that thing too. Yeah.
It's amazing because, like I've mentioned before, this entire CBD precinct is just a royal homage. The whole thing. You got Queen Victoria there. You got obviously like Alexander Fountain, and that was opened by Prince Albert and King George back in the 1800s. And pretty much every royal has visited Bendigo in that area since that time, since the 1850s. They've basically all been here. So yeah, I'd never noticed the 5-pointed star. And then you actually highlighted the Beehive building, and that was prior to you sending that Beehive video that you did today. So yeah, that's pretty.
You keep an eye out for the name Alexander too, because that can often be a nod to Alexandria in Egypt as well, which is also very significant to the Masons.
Right.
So you'll get name coming up over and over again.
So you got can you see this one here? This is from the Central Deborah gold mine. Is that coming up?
It's my little icon.
It's
I'm glad it's not just me.
No, I'm going to have to re-edit all these. There was an interesting bit here I saw. So you just got all these pictures of the old mining tunnels.
Oh yeah, they're fascinating.
There was something I wanted to mention here. I can't remember what it was.
It just goes on for reams and reams and pages of, you know, and that's just what's allowed out into the public. So it makes you wonder, you know, how much of that, you know, don't you get to see?
Yeah, because it was written by some guy. He's an old prospector, right? And he goes around to all these. Oh, that's right. That's what I found, because he mentioned all the different tunnels, and he actually put one here in Vaughan Springs. Did you see that bit?
No, I didn't. No.
So Vaughan Springs is near Casamay, and the only reason I found that interesting is because that is an Indigenous sacred site out in Vaughan Springs. And there was a huge slaughter around there at that time too, and a lot of the Aboriginals were killed, and they did a mass grave up near Mount Franklin, which is pretty close to Vaughan Springs. And that's why there's not a lot of Aboriginals in the area. That a lot of them were slaughtered and taken out in the 1800s around the gold mine area. So I found that really interesting that they mentioned Vaughan Springs, because I think a lot of it is overriding the natural energy of these important places, and I see Bendigo as that, like that whole area as a, you know, they've hijacked the energy of that place. Yeah. This is a significant area that sinister stuff's been going on, that's actually a beautiful thing, because it means the original energy of the area is something that they've had to hijack even more so. So yeah, that was what I found interesting there, that they brought up Vaughan Springs.
So when you've got gold, you've got quartz, and quartz has a really high frequency, 32,768 oscillations per second. So that is an incredibly high frequency area. And so they would have probably sought the area out, not just because of the gold, but because of the high frequency for their occult rituals. And there was one piece of footage that you shared where you were just panning around, and I can see the ley lines. Right. So that was something that I was sort of trained in from an early age. And you can just see the tunnels of energy that go through the landscape, and plants don't like to grow in them. And so I could see multiple. So I would say where you were standing was a nexus point of multiple ley lines that were crossing. So anywhere you have a lot of crossings of ley lines, you're going to get incredible energy, incredibly high frequency energy. So, you know, in many ways that can be beneficial for health, but not if it's being hijacked.
Right. Yeah, and like I would never have noticed it. I remember I was just doing a video panning there because you can actually see the quartz reef on the surface running, and like I used to walk through there every day. I loved it, and you're on a ley line, Dale.
Yeah, and even more powerful, you're in a nexus of them. So you know, so when you have them crossing over, you get portals, rather large portals, because all the energy comes in together, and that's fifth dimensional energy. So that's where you'll get your entities coming in from other dimensions as well. So the 5th dimension is like a train station for all the other dimensions to interact. So wherever you have ley lines, you have other entities that will come in and out. And a lot of these dark entities that the Freemasons, Golden Dawn, Rosicrucians will adore, they prefer to be underground. They need to be in the dark. They're not comfortable with the light for many reasons. So anywhere where you've got stretches of kilometres of tunnels in gold mine where the quartz is, you're going to have some amazing experiences. Like they would be able to conjure up incredible things down there. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was particular areas where the Freemasons, a bit like there was the Malheur Caves in somewhere in America, where you could see they're actually in one of the caves. They actually had a setup where they had lots of rows of bench seats, risers. I can't remember what they used them like in an auditorium, and a cutout for a door. Just a freestanding door didn't go anywhere because that was their portal to enter, have something enter through. So right. I wouldn't be surprised if they had something in the Deborah gold mine or in one of those gold mines in that area. So that would be their highest level invocation space.
Yeah. I remember when I went down there, I had like mad anxiety, and like I don't get claustrophobic or anything, but like I had to like calm myself when I was freaking out.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to show anyone else I was freaking out, so I was trying to like internalize. I was like, just calm down. But
well, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, but I mean, it's even like when I've had family members that say it to, and lots of other people. They're like that when they've seen entities, they're always in closets when they're hidden in a closet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes into the whole Monsters Inc. thing, right?
Well, the problem with normal houses is they have a hallway with lots of doors coming off it, which represents a 5th dimensional space. So we actually create houses that embody portals and these 5th dimensional ley lines, and people don't even realize it. So when you create a space like that with a hallway, you're going to be inviting stuff in. So it's best not to have halls.
What do you think now? I mean, all the schools were structured like that. The old schools. Like, what do you think of because like everything's open living now, all the new homes, right? So what do you think about that? Because I know that was done to that was to amplify the smart grid too, but mate, because again, that's just an energy that's trying to penetrate too. But do you think naturally that is actually better to be living in an open?
It is a much better option, especially when you consider that a lot of these hallways will have a bathroom or a toilet leading off it, and where you've got water, you've got an amplification as well of that 5th dimensional energy. That's why you see a lot of people having apparitions in bathrooms and kitchen areas where the water is, because it's like a battery source. So yeah,
isn't that interesting too? Because that's like because they want open living to penetrate all the frequencies and all the negative frequencies, but you're saying that it can be a positive too. Yeah. That's a duality of everything. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Look, we might have to do it again. I only got like another 5 minutes, but like, I just want to touch on this one because I sent it to you, and Caroline Kennedy come to Bendigo the other week, and it's like, and that's why I thought we had to do this video because like we had George Pell, Dan Andrews, multiple visits, then we had Priscilla Presley, and then like, in the state of Priscilla Presley visits here. 2 months later, her daughter dies. George Pell visits here, goes straight back to Rome. He dies.
That's right.
And then we've got Caroline Kennedy, the new ambassador to Australia from America, and comes to visit the Bendigo goldfields at the cemetery to honour an American who was a miner that fought alongside the Australians in the Eureka Stockade. And I'm like, there's just some crazy symbology here. And I'm like, I don't know. I've heard things, but like I don't know. But it seems to me there's some. Is it just an energy thing there's like a meeting ground of particular people coming here at this time? I don't know what it is, but like that was like the last one was like Caroline Kennedy here. I'm like, it's getting a bit too weird.
It's obviously a very, very special place. I know it was supposed to be one of the richest towns in the world or something.
I think it was. It's in the gold rush. It was the wealthiest city in the world. Yeah.
There you go. So in that 1938 mandate where they were talking about, cutting off the light in case there was a bombing raid, it was usually only the coastal towns. So I did have that part of a PDF as well. Thank you to Andrew who provided it to me. But Bendigo was singled out as one of the towns that, even though it wasn't on the coast, had to have blackouts during the Second World War so that they wouldn't get destroyed. So it's very, very significant. And I don't think it's just because it's a rich town. I'd say it's for other reasons, because Bathurst and Tamworth were also named as significant and had to have blackouts as well.
Right. Yeah, and they've
dodgy as hell, and so is Tamworth.
Yeah, I was about to say they've both been mentioned for their occult significance too, haven't they? Yeah, particularly like Bathurst and that. The last one before I've got about 4 minutes. I went into the art precinct, the Bendigo Art Gallery, in the last video. Is there anything else you want to like share on that? Obviously, I shared the PDF on my website of the kids' activity to go locate the skull, and then the pedo teddy bear around the back, and then the white rabbit. I'm like that is just in your face.
Yeah, yeah, and some around, of the imagery you showed
all
me,
around the old Masonic building. So
there was an image that you shared with me of a photograph. I think it might have been one of the artists that was involved. They had two kids standing in front of a palm tree, and they had little kitten ears on. But the way that the lighting set the shadow of the little kitten ears came to bunny ears behind them, and I thought that was significant with the palm tree as well. So people who are, I mean, obviously the rabbit has a lot of significance, particularly around children. So there's so much symbology that it's so much more in your face nowadays. At least people are able to talk about it a bit more, and we can see that sort of happening. But you did a great dig on that. That was really impressive.
Yeah, and thanks for pointing that out again. Like, I would never have noticed the detail with the ears, and once you put it to the conscious mind, I went, well, yeah, it's definitely there. Alex Seaton is the name of the artist. And those that have been in Bendigo would know, like, there's never funding for anything, but the art gallery is constant funding. And our former mayor, Rod Fife, and that they're all on the board of the art gallery, and then like the council and state government, just constant money for the art gallery. It's probably the main tourist aspect of Bendigo now. They get huge exhibitions in from all around the world, but they just got another $44 million upgrade.
Jeez.
So look, there's definitely some significance there, the relationship between the council, the state government, and that art precinct, and then adding in all the symbology, and that it's next door to the Masonic Hall. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I'm glad you're out of there.
I'm gonna have to cut off before we get cut again. People that Rachel's just put. You've been doing so much stuff at the moment. I haven't caught up with nearly even half your stuff, but I'll get around to it. So yeah, please go. I'll put Rachel's links under. Check out her Telegram channel. That's where you pretty much post most of your stuff to your other links and that.
And there's Bitchute and Rumble as well. Just look for my name, and you'll find my videos there.
Yeah. So I appreciate you doing. We didn't even go through a quarter of it, but I'll put the PDFs in. People can go through it themselves as well. Thanks so much for doing all that research, and hope you're well.
Thanks to the other researchers who provided stuff too. Yeah, I won't name them because I don't want to be named.
Yeah, that's everyone picks up different things, don't they? That others would never see, and that's why we've got to collaborate. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully, I'll talk to you soon. We might even do it again.
Beautiful.
Cool. Have a good day. Good to see you.
You too, Dale. Take care.
Bye.